Okay, good morning, everybody. It's a little after 10. We got a late start due to technical difficulties. My name is Bob. I'm here in the USA with Maria, and we have Herbert in Uganda with RESI. And the three of us collaborated and edited and produced the book, James The Steward, which is based on real events in Uganda due to a landslide, which was due to all the trees being cut down, deforestation. So what we will do is we'll read a few pages. Samantha, who is in Mexico City with her niece, Samantha is from BLI, and she's going to start off reading. Then we'll have a short question and answer session, and then I will read a few pages. We'll have another question and answer, and then Herbert and then Anurag in India is going to read a few. He and his wife are BLI ambassadors in India. And then Herbert's going to read a few at the end, and then we'll have a few more, a little period for question and answers. And then we'll tell everybody about the little contest that we're going to have that, excuse me?
Oh, I was just going to say the big question after each reading.
Yeah, after each reading. And then we'll tell you about the little contest. We want everybody to, all the children to put together a little drawing or painting or story about climate change, environmental changes, something that they can do. And then we're going to, after the Father's Day in June, then we'll put them all up for a vote and try to find 5 good stories or posters, and then we'll award each person either a copy of the book that they can hold in their hands or a t-shirt that we're in the process of designing. So I will start off with Samantha in Mexico, and she's going to read the first 5 pages to us, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions about what's going on so far. Samantha, take it away.
Thank you, Bob. Hello, everybody. Good morning. So let's start with our book. James the Steward. James and Sarah are best friends. They are both in primary 5 and study in the same school. They live in the city with their parents. The school has closed for Christmas holidays, and the 2 friends are excited about the adventures they will have during the long break. James' parents have invited Sarah to travel with them to the village to visit their grandmother for the week. Sarah asks and gets permission from her parents to go with James. Grandma Wanyana lives in Bududa, a place in eastern Uganda prone to landslides.
Nice seeing you on this thing too.
On the day of the departure, the 2 friends are very happy about going on their adventure to the village.
Show the picture.
Their journey will take at least 4 hours by car, and they wonder what fun things they will see along the way.
So this is the picture that everybody's getting ready to get in the car from the city and go on their little trip along the 4 hours to visit grandma. And you can see James and Sarah and their parents getting ready to jump in that car with the litter all over the parking lot and the smokestacks in the background. Next page.
After some time on the road, Sarah notices a field with few trees, dry land, and many tree stumps, and asks James, what happened to all the trees and animals? James' mother explains to the children that a few years ago that field was part of the Mabira forest, which was full of animals and trees. But a company came and cut down all the trees so that they had more space to run their business. But they did not plant new trees when they cut down the big trees. Along the road, as the journey continues, Sarah and James do see some fields with tea, maize, and some trees and very nice lands. They also get a glimpse of some monkeys in the trees and along the side of the road. When they finally arrive at Grandma's home, many hours later, they are all excited to see Grandma as she half rushes out on her walking cane to welcome them, her eyes beaming with delight.
So now we have illustrations. The top one showing how the road should work, or how it did look before all the trees were cut down, which is what's just shown on the bottom of the page. It used to be the home for the birds and the monkeys and the envelope animals, with plenty of trees and plenty of green. The big companies came in and cut down all the trees so they can plant so they can have wood for charcoal and running their factories. And you can see the factories still in the big city in the background.
As James' parents unload the luggage from the car, James introduces his friend Sarah to his grandmother. Then James and Sarah follow Grandma into the house, eager to have some of Grandma's special treat, Odi on bananas. James' parents are quick to follow, and everybody is happy to be out of the car and finally at Grandma's to spend the week for fun and relaxing away from the city. Grandma Wanyana is 70 years old and lives with her friend and helper, Mary, in the small, quiet village of Bududa, located in a valley filled with trees, bushes, and flowers. She has a small garden where she grows some vegetables and a few chickens that roam her yard and give her eggs. There is a small river nearby and a few hills and a couple of mountains nearby.
And this is a picture illustration of Grandma's home, which is a small hut in the village. And you can see Sarah and James have arrived. All their luggage is out of the car. The chickens are roaming around, and the land is nice and green and full of life. Now, would we have any questions? Anybody have any questions for Samantha about what we've seen or read so far?
Oh yes. Where did Grandma Wanyanya live again?
In a village nearby Bududa. That's a place in Uganda,
Okay.
in Africa.
Okay.
Bududa. She lived in Bududa.
Bududa.
Out of way far, 4 hours away from the city, in the country.
Should explain who knows to do that.
And then Herbert, if you want to talk about Bududa or
Yeah, sure. I love to. I don't know if my network is able to get me through. Can you all hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so Bududa is a place in eastern Uganda, close to Kenya. Gomez, you know Kenya? You've heard of it? Yes. So Bududa is in the eastern part of our country, near the great mountain Elgon. So the landscape or the relief is hilly. So most of the people that stay in Bududa occupy the foothills, the hills that are near Mount Elgon. So as we read part of the story, we've heard that trees were cut down when a landslide came. It was able to, I think that will be in the next, I think the last part of it, but that's the part of Bududa, Eastern Uganda, and I think a few days ago there was another landslide. It's really a sad thing always watching it on our TVs. But hopefully, when you guys pay a visit to Uganda, we can take a visit to the eastern part of the country. And I'm happy that you're able to walk the whole journey.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next little voyage here. So as you can imagine, that Uganda is a country, small country in the continent of Africa, and it's fairly rural generally. There's a few cities, but most of the people live in little rural villages and communities scattered about the country. So Grandma and Mary, her assistant, live in a small mud house with enough room for a kitchen, a sitting room, and a couple of bedrooms. Grandma said the house was built from burnt bricks and mud, glued together with cow dung, with the kind help of some village men many years ago. James's father, who lived with Grandma when he was a boy, keeps trying to get Grandma to move back to the city to live with them. But Grandma always says she does not want to. She says she does not like the city with its tall buildings, lots of noise, no trees, too many cars, pillars of smoke, and littered streets. She would rather stay in the village because she loves to tend her garden, look at what's left of nature, go for morning walks, and hear the birds sing. The next day, James and Sarah helped Grandma with the garden and the chickens, fetched water, and explored the village. Sarah helped with the cooking, and James went with his father to the river to catch fish. James and Sarah met and played with many of the other children in the village and learned of the local animals and many differences between living in the village and living in the city. They even learned some new games and activities that were lots of fun. One evening, a few days after they had arrived, James's father and Grandma started a fire with logs of wood just outside Grandma's house. James, Sarah, Mary, Grandma, James's mother and father, and a group of village friends and neighbors gather around the fire, and Grandma begins to tell a story. As everybody enjoys the fire, while the adults enjoy their English tea and roasted nuts, the children drink their hot milk and samosas. Grandma falls into her storytelling voice about her life in the village and how beautiful she remembers nature and the environment when she was a child. Grandma Wanyana says, "Hello, my dear children. I am excited to have you here for this term's holidays. I have been waiting for you to come and spend some time with me. Grandma missed you a lot, and I hope school has been fun." "Sure, it has been exciting. We performed well." Sarah was the best in her class, and so was I, James chirped. "Oh, Grandma is very proud of you, my children. Now let Grandma tell you a wonderful story that she has kept for you. Today, I will share with you a beautiful story about Mother Nature." She starts, "You know well, I was born 70 years ago." "Oh, that's a long time," Granny squealed James and Sarah. "Ha ha," Granny laughs passionately. "I have lived long enough to witness our Mother Nature change." And this illustration will show you Grandma and the kids sitting around the campfire near Grandma's hut, getting ready to hear her story, drinking their milk, having little snacks, a little campfire with the stars at night, nice and clear. She continues, "When I was 7 years, just like you, we used to walk in the bushes collecting firewood. We could eat wild fruits like guava and berries. Dad would collect wild honey for Mom and my young sister. It was amazingly delicious." She sighs at the memory. Then she looks in earnest at the eager children. "My children, we were never admitted in big hospitals like you today. We had plenty of medicines from the forest. As a child, I used to enjoy walking the forest with my dad and older brother. We used to tour Mabira Forest at least twice a month. Mabira was the goddess of beauty. We would walk barefooted through the forest trails, listening to beautiful songs made by the songbirds in the deepest canopies of the trees. The waters of the Nile would flow ceaselessly, roaring through the valley and the rocks in the forest, producing a cool breeze that would bring your soul in touch with nature. This next illustration shows what Grandma is trying to describe, the nature, the birds, the animals, where they're getting drinks of water, the blue water flowing through the forest, fresh air, flowers, birds, nice clean air, trees, berries growing on the trees and other trees, and everybody playing cleanly, the zebra and the giraffe and the elephant and the lion, even turtles in the forest and the water. Grandma continues. We had this one particular spot in the forest where we would sit after our walk. We ate scrumptious berries, and my brother and my father would sing beautiful hymns that went like this. Oh, Mother Nature, may you live for ages, live to offer these delicious fruits to our grandchildren. They made that song up, of course, as they went along. And I don't really have a very good singing voice, but anyway. After our walk in the forest, my brother loved swimming in the still cool waters of the Nile. At the end of our journey, Father would collect wild honey and berries for Mother and my young sister. Grandma pauses in deep reflection and then continues. I will never forget the day we visited Mount Rwenzori and Queen Elizabeth National Park in the year 1958. I was just 10 years, and I saw large elephants, lions, hyenas, beautiful shoebill birds, turacos, geckos, lizards, buffaloes. The hippos were enormous. We then visited Mount Rwenzori, where I witnessed the skies and earth meet. It was amazing. The top of the mountain had glowing white rocks. Oh, Granny, jumped in the two grandchildren. That's James and Sarah. That must have been snow. We see it in the movies. Many of the children and even some adults had lots of questions for Grandma, like, where were the berries? What did some of the animals look like that they have never seen? Where is Mabira Forest and what happened to it? James's father taught everybody the Mother Nature song, and they all sang along and laughed together until late in the night when the moon came out and shone bright in the sky above them. Everybody said goodnight, and the children promised to come back to the village to visit again soon, since they would be returning to the city the next day. Now, I am going to take some questions and try to answer, and I'm not singing. And then Anurag will take over. So, what questions or comments do we have from anybody about Grandma and her story and the forest and animals and the like? Any questions? Raise your hand, knock, knock, say something. Go ahead. From Mexico City, Mexico, I mean.
Yes. How do you think all of this applies to other parts of the world?
Well, I think it applies to all parts of the world because as time has gone on, if you ask your grandmother what Mexico was like, if you live in the city right now, or your aunt living in Mexico City, I don't know if you're rural, if you're in another city, but if you ask any of your grandmothers, what were things like 70 years ago or 80 years ago, they will all tell you that things have changed. Even I, not being quite 70, when I was living in Virginia, I went to Virginia and I was talking to the people that lived there, and they said, well, all this, which was all stores and strip malls and industrial zones, they said 10 years ago, all this was just field full of hay. And there were forests here, trees. And what happened just in 10 years, people moved in, they migrated out of Washington, D.C. or the big cities, and more people were born. They moved to the country and they started cutting down trees and building cement buildings and stores and factories. And that's part of what happens with civilization. We get more people, they grow, they take over lands because they said, oh, this is a great place for a house, this is a great place for a store. And so it applies to everywhere. It used to be nice country, rural, with birds and animals walking around. And you'll find that even now we hear stories of the bears and the lions and raccoons and animals are coming out of the woods, and people are finding them in their backyards because they don't have as much forest as they used to. They don't have as much of nature. And of course, you'll hear stories that the rivers are being polluted. So the fishing isn't as good as it used to be. And you see more smokestacks in the air. So it applies to every country, every state, every neighborhood, every community, in every way. Things are changing.
So that was Industrial Revolution.
Well, the Industrial Revolution was a long time ago, but that started it. Yes, that started it. Does anybody other have any input on that question? Herbert? Samantha? You're in Mexico. You can tell your niece how it applies to Mexico.
Well, for example, in the city, we have a lot of cars now, so our city is very polluted. And if you go out of the city, you can find mountains and a bit more of nature, but not so much now in the city. But yes, many years ago, we used to have much more nature, less cars, less polluted. It was completely different, but we people, not everybody is aware of the situation and contributes to polluting our city. But that's what we are trying to change. Because if we understand what things we must not do, we can change and we can
Running out of time,
No. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
We'll finish tomorrow, Brian.
Yeah, it's echo from her.
Samantha, we have an echo and we lost visual with you.
Sorry?
I said, you're giving us a very echo when we're not hearing what you're saying and we've lost your visual. So we're
Very much. I can see her from here.
I can't see her. What is that noise?
Stop.
All right,
Okay.
it's better. So let her see what you're saying.
Now, what were
I
you
like
saying?
what you were
Now,
saying.
what were you saying about the cars in Mexico City and smokestacks?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that we are so we have contributed in pollution because we have so many cars. We've came apart a bit of nature, but what we're trying to do and what this book shows is that we can restore nature and we can help the world recover from all of these that we're mentioning. Okay, so that's our message. I hope. I mean, I don't know, Bob or Herbert, if you want to compliment or whatever.
okay. Thank you, Samantha. Anna-Rig, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yep.
Okay, so let's let you read for a little while.
Yeah.
Take over where I left off. Or
After a very exciting and wonderful visit to the village and time spent with grandma, enjoying the outdoors and new adventures and meeting new friends, the week comes to an end and the family begins the long journey home. When James and Sarah return to the city, they start to realize and talk to their other friends in the city and each other about the differences between the village life and how things are in the city. They think about all Grandma said, about how she remembers how the environment used to be and
oh,
how
my
she
screen.
believes that what people do affects nature
Stuff.
and the environment. They begin questioning what they do every day and how it affects nature, the environment, and the climate. James is still skeptical that small actions like littering, leaving the water running, or leaving lights on can actually hurt Mother Nature, lead to environmental damage, or cause a climate crisis. Sarah, on the other hand, is convinced that actions by people all over the world, like polluting water and air, cutting down all the trees, and wasting our natural resources, is hurting the environment. Sarah knows something needs to change, and she begins to watch and adjust her actions more carefully by not wasting water, not leaving trash lying around, putting plastic or in recycle bins, and protecting the environment in any small way she can. Because James and Sarah do not agree completely about this, it creates a little tension between the best friends. And because they are busy with school and their family, they do not talk about this much for a while. Although James didn't totally agree with Sarah or was not convinced, little actions affected the environment like Sarah and Grandma did. He often had small thoughts about it. Sometimes, when he felt guilty, he would remember to turn off the light when he left the room and made a point not to litter.
Pictures.
Yeah.
So as you see, here they are in the kitchen having a conversation, trying to figure out what to do and how explain each other, share their opinions and feelings about what they learned, the difference between the city and the country and where grandma lives and that sort of thing. So, and of course, you can see the city in the background out the window, still that smokestack. Well, at least they have a bowl of fruit on the table, right? Which they bought at the store, which came from grandma's village, probably. Anyway, okay, next page. We already did that.
Yeah.
And now after they've had the discussion and they have some ideas of how we can all help to contribute to not littering, not wasting our resources, natural resources, not polluting the air. And here's the difference between their opinions is James saying, oh, it's okay to let the water run, no big deal. How much effect can one person have on the wasting of water? And then Sarah is down below showing that you can make a difference because you can do things like turning off the water when it's running. You don't need it running when you stop using it. You rinse a plate, you turn the water off. You brush your teeth, you turn the water off. When you leave a room, you turn the light off because that uses more electricity, which uses more fuel, which creates more pollution in the air, unless you're doing solar or nuclear. Next page.
Sarah and James saw each other often and even had maths
Skip
class
this one.
together at school.
Hmm?
Sarah always knew the answers. After returning to school for 3 weeks, James and Sarah arranged to get together one evening to do maths homework and study for an exam coming up. That evening, while doing their maths homework together, they saw a news flash that showed that there is a landslide that has caused great damage in the village of
Yep.
Bududa, where James' grandma lived and where James and Sarah had just visited. According to the breaking news, the landslide was likely due to the many days of heavy rain before and because of all the trees that had been cut and removed from that hillside a couple of years ago, just like in Mabira Forest. James was upset and very concerned about his grandmother, and Sarah tried to comfort
That's
him
not where we are.
and
Though.
assure him that she was confident his grandma was okay.
Okay, so the illustration here shows they're doing their work. But any questions? Any questions for Anurag or Samantha or me?
That's important.
And this is the illustration where they're sitting there doing their homework and the news came on. And of course, you can see the landslide in the background where it used to be green. Now that's all washed away and it's mud, and they're very worried because it's very near where grandma lives. Okay,
Yes, I have
questions?
a question, Robert.
You have a question of me?
For actually for the entire house.
Go ahead, Herbert.
Yes, I want to ask the young star that we have here. That is Alejandro. What are those environment disasters that are happening maybe in his city, so that we're able to relate them with a Ugandan context? We're talking about a landslide, so we need to know what happens in Mexico, what happens in other parts of the world that we see that are happening in our lives currently.
Okay, and does anybody want to share what's going on?
Actually, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
In Scandinavia, Norway is doing a great effort for their culture to be one that encourages going back to basics and of nature. Do you think other countries will follow suit?
I can tell you that a lot of other countries are following suit. There are a lot of activists in almost every country. They're just not getting the publicity. And some countries, they're doing small things. Some countries are really rampant with solar. And even I have noticed that I didn't realize that solar panels were getting so big here. But as I drive around, I see big fields and solar panels all over houses. We see little, I won't call them protests, but I'll call them gatherings where people are promoting climate change actions. There are a lot of people contacting big corporations and trying to get them to reduce their carbon footprints. So I think every country is, even China, but they're not doing enough. That's the problem. And of course, we know that the US, we didn't really take a break, but the government took a break when our past president got out of the Paris agreement and that sort of thing. So there has been a lot. People are doing something everywhere. We're not doing enough. And we need to make everybody more aware of the little things that we can do, because all the little things add up to big things. It's just like if you find a penny, do you throw it in your jar and save it, or do you just throw it on the ground? Every penny that you collect adds up to a nickel, and then a dime, and then a quarter, and then a dollar. And if everybody does their little part, it will grow and grow and grow, and it will make a big difference. People have to stop wasting water. They have to stop burning oil. They have to stop driving so much. A lot of things, polluting the rivers, that sort of thing.
There's another child in the Sangita.
Sangita, you have a question or a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, hello, sir. Good evening. I joined just newly, so I didn't hear the rest of the part actually, but I like the conversation which is going on. It's really interesting about the solar panels and energy efficient thing.
Well, thank
Nice
you,
to see you,
and thank you for coming.
I
Happy
think she's
Mother's
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you a lot. Happy Mother's Day to everyone, in fact, who have their mothers in home and who have their wives. For everyone, Tanvi.
Excuse me, she is from India, from our
Yes.
state of Assam, and the kid is Samiksha's student. Since Samiksha is ill today, so so she's not able to know. But she just informed me that the kid is Samiksha's student.
Well, welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
So, Robert, I also have maybe something we need to clarify.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Herbert.
So we talked about the carbon footprint because we have other wonderful members joining us, and they're from different fields. Others are engineers, others are financials. So I think it's important to simplify what carbon footprint means in a very simple, maybe understanding. I would say it's your contribution, it is your share of the gases that affect our atmosphere. So your carbon footprint impact is the amount of gases that you contribute through your activities. If you drive a motor vehicle, if you consume foods that are processed, so that is the carbon footprint. Like, how much are you contributing of the gases that affect the ozone layer? So thank you.
Thank you, Herbert, for clearing that up. Any other comments and questions?
I have a last one. Maybe we can find a way to promote Scandinavian recycling bottle vending machines. So basically, you put in like a bottle in a vending machine, and depending on the material, they give you some kroner back. That's like Norwegian currency.
Mhm.
It'd be a wonderful. Yes.
Well,
So
we
we do that here too, with Pepsi.
that's certainly a great idea. And I actually looked into recycling, starting a recycling plant, and I discovered that there are lots of flaws with it. But anyway, I think other countries do it. We even do it here to some extent. You can turn in your aluminum cans, and you get a little money for that. I haven't heard of any bottles, except for some bottles. Some of our plastic bottles, like our Pepsi and Coke and that sort of thing, you pay a fee when you buy. You pay an extra charge. You pay an extra charge when you buy the soda, and then you can take it back to a recycling outlet, and you get a 5 cents returnable on each bottle. So, but we need to do more of that. And unfortunately, I also discovered that some of these recycling places, they don't really recycle what you turn in. It ends up in a landfill anyway. So we have to, because recycling is actually very, very expensive, because if it's not separated where at the home, if it's not separated and cleaned and cleared, then it takes a lot of labor and it takes a lot of time and effort, because in order to recycle things properly, all the plastic of a certain thickness or description need to be in one place and other colors in another place, and they have to take off the labels and they have to make sure they're clean. You have to wash them, and all that takes some chemicals to do that. So it's very complicated. It's a very complicated process, but it's definitely worth it now. The better idea is to find better containers, finding like cardboard containers that are biodegradable. They don't have to be recycled. They can be put in a landfill and they just disintegrate all on their own. They rot and fade away into the ground. And that's what we need to do. We need to use more products and materials that are not going to last forever in the ground, like plastic. It never goes away. But yes, we need to find a way to get more plastic back and recycled, but we also need to find a way to use better materials. Does that help?
Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We actually do have like a recycling warehouse in Mexico, but they're way outside the city, so we would do it, but not. It's a very limited amount of people who have the means or the time to go outside the city to go recycle bottles. But those vending machines in Norway are actually in every corner. So if we had those in every corner, everybody would do it. Yeah.
That's true. I'm sure it is too true. I'm sure it's true. Just a matter of who's going to get the machines and put them there.
Yeah.
And you have to get permits from the towns and the villages and the governments, and it's and even with the machines there, if they're 2 blocks away, I mean, if they're 2 blocks away, I'm sorry to say, but in this time and age, in this world, there are a lot of lazy people. And instead of walking 2 blocks and putting it in their machine, it's very easy just to throw it in the trash and let it end up wherever it ends up, because they, as an individual, don't think what they do means enough. And that's the awareness that we have to get out to everybody, even children, that whatever you do creates some sort of pollution or some sort of carbon footprint, which is, as Herbert said, is an individual's contribution to pollution. So every little thing we do can help. And that's our goal, to make children aware, make families aware, and educate everybody that every little thing that you do can help. You can't just leave it up to everybody else. But I like your idea.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, the kids here would do it for pocket money and being a part of something bigger. All my friends here are always like trying to, like recycle. Like all the little kids always are trying to recycle, but they don't really know how. And at some point, they kind of want to do it for pocket money. So,
Okay.
But they don't know how to.
Okay, so maybe we can, that's a good idea. We can start a campaign. They have, you can get little recycle boxes that you can put on street corners or near your house, and have people come and put their recyclables in those boxes. But then you have to have somebody that's going to come around and collect all that stuff in the boxes. And so we can talk, and maybe you can be our ambassador in Mexico.
Yes. Yes. Really.
We'll see what we can do. I'll look into that a little further, and we'll see what we can do about getting all those machines or some way. I've been thinking about it here in the U.S. I mean, way back when, years and years ago, when there was a big thing about pollution and recycling and that sort of stuff, there were bins. There still are bins, but not as many I've noticed. And you know, I have a house where I rent out to people, and I notice when I take their trash to the dump, they leave their bottles in the trash, and I guess maybe I should be separating it, but I just don't feel it's my responsibility to rummage through their trash. But I don't know how to get these people to recyclable. But that's something I'm thinking about, and I've also thought about doing the recycling, getting some bins put around town, and having a little recycling thing. I recycle, and there's a young man that walks around town picking up bottles and cans so he can have pocket money, and I save my returnables for him because I know he takes them to where they belong until I can get my own recycling plant going. So I'm on it. Anybody else? Keep going. You can ask any question you want.
You could encourage your tenants with a discount on rent.
Well, now you talk. Now you're going into a whole different subject. Now we're going to talk economics. Somebody has to pay the bills, dear. But I'll put signs up. I have to go out and buy some bins so that they know they can recycle. That's what we can do.
Yeah.
So,
Excuse me, sir. This is Anurag here. Yeah. So since Samiksha is quite ill, so if you don't mind, can I leave the meeting here? I'm extremely sorry for that.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Take care of your wife. Give her some honey and lemon, and take care of that throat.
Yes. Yes,
I
sir.
hope,
I would like
I
to.
hope
you
she's
for
well.
coming
We'll
around.
check on you again.
Sure, sir. Sure. That's thank you so much. Thank you so much for this event, and thank you everyone present here. It was a wonderful time with all of you.
Thank you too.
And Sangeeta ma'am, thank you for joining. Sangeeta ma'am, thank you for joining. Yeah, from India.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining.
Okay, Herbert, take it
Yes.
away. You're up.
Both James's mom and dad began to get worried. You can hear me?
Yes.
Both James's mom and dad began to get worried, and because grandma could not be reached by phone, plans were made to get ready that night and leave in the morning to make the trip to the village, make sure grandma was safe and out of danger. After a long and stressful drive from the city to grandma's village, James and his family arrived at the village and went where grandma's house was. On arrival at the scene, they see that grandma and other houses, as well as the school where their friends and village children went to study, has been washed away by the landslide. Many homes were completely covered with mud, and some appeared to be completely gone, flattened out. The side of the mountain had fallen down and covered almost wiped out the whole village, as well as the school where their friends go to study. They inquire from survivors. James and his family are very scared and worried that grandma was buried. Are we following up together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're good.
That grandma was buried in her house under the mud. So they searched and asked everybody they found if anybody had seen grandma and if anybody knew what had happened or where grandma could be. After speaking with many of the villagers and learning that the side of the mountain has slid down, when most of the village people went at the marketplace far away from the mountain and were able to get away, they begin to calm down. In time, James's friend finds one of the friends that was at the campfire, who told him grandma was at the camp set up for those who lost their home from the landslide. They find out that he has been placed in the IDP camp, internally displaced persons camp. On arrival at the camp, they see the poor conditions that the survivors of the landslides were dealing with and how deeply upset everybody is because they have lost everything: their homes, their village, their land, some friends, some family, and they knew not where to go and what to do. James, his dad and mother search and finally find grandmother sitting reading with a shock at what had happened, and so sad that the peace and beauty that she has known for all the 70 years were destroyed. So sad. All because the trees had been cut down to make money without thinking of the damage being done to the environment, and there were no roots in the ground to keep the soil on the mountain. No trees were planted to replace those cut down, so the rain fell and the mud came tumbling down and washed away everything in its path, the soil down the mountain, and buried her home, garden, and all that she knew and loved. James has a rude awakening when he realizes he could have lost his grandmother to the landslide that was caused by a small action of cutting down trees, which resulted in a huge environmental disaster.
Of course, this illustration shows Grandma laying down resting after this traumatic experience and escaping the landslide caused by all the trees being cut down and the big rains washing the mud down and wiping out the village and her house and her poor chickens. And this is when you realize how important things are when you're about to lose them or when they almost get lost, like your grandmother or your mother. And these are the kinds of disasters that can happen because of actions that we do that we don't think about the repercussions, such as throwing plastic in the rivers and the oceans and throwing paper and litters out the car window or cutting down all the trees or putting all kinds of smoke in the air. Luckily, Grandma was okay, and a lot of the other villages were okay because they were all at the marketplace. But now they're taking care of them. Herbert?
Yes, he apologizes in tears to his grandma for not listening to her and understanding her story, and the lesson that all people need to learn about how every action, no matter how small, affects our environment and our lives and our sorry, I'm gonna do this again. It affects our environment and our lives the world over without realizing.
Are you there, Herbert?
I think we lost.
Is he there?
His dad gathered up grandma and whatever belongings she had and returned to the city to stay. James is very happy grandma is safe after rescuing grandma from the village and the tragic effects of the landslide and bringing her to live with his family. James returns to school. The once stubborn boy who used to litter rubbish in the compound and not care about what would happen to nature begins to advocate for change. It's amazing. James has a heart-to-heart with Sarah, who had all along been trying to get him to change his ways. Very powerful.
And here we see James and Sarah gone back to school, telling people what had happened and what can be done, and how all the children, all the people everywhere around the world, all the little things that we can do to help our environment, to help the birds and the animals and the fishes. Let the grass grow and the trees grow so that we can enjoy fresh air and beautiful sights. Herbert? Herbert,
They agreed to address the children in his class. Yes.
go ahead. Sorry.
They agreed to address the children in his class. Okay. They agreed to address the children in his class about the lesson learned. They explained about the children in Gududa village who can no longer go to school, who lost their homes, friends, and family, as well as James's grandma, who also lost her home and was still recovering from the terrible experience of surviving the landslide that destroyed the village she lived in and loved for 70 years. After explaining to their schoolmates about the little things that affect the environment and our global climate, James and Sarah issue a call to action to the children in their school and throughout the city to change their behaviors. Grandma stayed with James until she is fully recovered, where his parents plan to relocate her to a safer place. The children at James's school start a fundraiser to build a school in the Manafa refugee camp to help their friends continue with their education. And this marks the end of the literature, but the images continue. Take on
One more picture. So the happy ending is grandma is okay. They're going to build a new school. And here they are in their school with their recycle bins, picking up the trash, planting trees, telling people do not litter and do not waste water and do not, and save our earth. Love our earth. Love where you live. Take care of your backyard and your home and your community. And that's the end. And of course, at the end of the book, we also have a couple activities. There's a connect the dots and color and Earth Day crossword puzzle, a few little crossword puzzles if anybody knows, if everybody likes crosswords. And that's the end. And we open up to questions for the rest of the people. Questions, comments, Samantha, Herbert? Anybody have questions?
Yes, I do have a question. I know my phone could be inverted because when the laptop failed, I had to use the phone. But I really have quite a reflective question to all of us who are here. But first to the mothers in the house, those who are not yet mothers and those who are mothers already, happy Mother's Day. I believe in the role of a mother in shaping a whole generation. So my question to every female being, I know, Robert, you know us men, there is a way we do our things. And I don't want to say that is our nature, but let me direct this to the mothers in the house. So I would want to know the individual actions that they will play to make sure that the children learn about climate change and the few things that we talked about in the storybook about recycling. I'm happy the youngster here talked a lot about recycling and other activities to protect the environment. So I would love to get every female on this call talking. What would they do to help shape a new generation of men and women who are climate stewards? Robert, was I audible enough?
Pardon me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're fine. That's good enough. Yep. Do we have any comments from any of the mothers or any of the children listening?
Not disgusting.
Okay.
In behalf of my mom always is teaching me like not to waste water when we're brushing our teeth or doing the dishes, or not to, or we have like separate bags, one for the bottles and one for the glass and things. Yeah. So in that subject, like in mom, I got a pretty great one.
And do you tell all your friends not to waste water and recycle and
And I have a Norwegian friend who always is teaching me to how-tos of doing recycling.
Great. The internet's a wonderful thing. The internet's a wonderful thing. You can make friends all over the world, huh? Very good. We all just need to cooperate and gather our thoughts and do good things.
Actually,
Do we have some? Pardon me?
that Norwegian friend is my mom's boyfriend.
Oh, okay. Far apart. Do you ever see each other? Anyway.
Yes, but since COVID, no.
Okay. Yeah, COVID, no. Are there any other comments, questions, anything else we can do to address Herbert's inquiry? Sangeeta, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, so the question that got asked about which are climate change and like what's any positive step that has been taken towards the climate. I would like to add one thing. Like I usually teach my child like how to make meals at home. Like when we visit our village home, I used to through the disposable that metals like to it has been only so telling to throw all the disposable things there and all the items with plastics and which are not disposable to it and to burn them. Particularly that is being made disposable, I would always tell him to take, suppose he eats a banana, I tell him to throw a peel in the disposable pit. So that I used to teach him, and also I used to teach him about watering plants. So he always, whenever he comes to his village home, usually he used to water his plants in a row that is being kept in a row. So he would water his plants. So that thing he usually does when he comes here to his village home.
All right.
So these things he has been doing for a long time.
That's great.
Since he has been taught. So this too. That's and school also do certain things. They take steps how to teach the kids about being environment friendly. So all these tasks and assignments are being given to them at least 2 or 3 times a year. So he learns a lot from there too.
That's great, because we have to remember that the children are going to inherit this earth that we're messing up, and they're going to be having to take care of it and live in it. So
Yes.
the sooner they all learn, the sooner they take on these practices and take care of their trash and that sort of thing, the better off we'll all be. At least they will be, and their children and their grandchildren.
Yes.
So that's part of the awareness and part of the education that we have to spread around to everybody. That, and in some corners we've been working on it for a long time, but we have a lot of work to do.
Yes, sir.
So what we are going to do is announce and what we'd like to either give away some T-shirts or some books, copies of James the Steward. It can be your choice once we decide who has the best paintings. We're going to do this for Mother's Day and Father's Day. So if everybody, all the children can make a drawing of some sort that shows what they are doing in their communities or what they think is important or something to do with climate change or the environment. And then after we get all the drawings submitted to us at, is it info@bli-global.org. You can email that to us. After Father's Day, we will put them all together and our speakers will all make a vote on it and we'll pick the 5 best pictures and everybody can choose whether they'd like to have a copy of James the Steward or a t-shirt with James the Steward picture on it. And you're all welcome to join us again at Father's Day.
Although I do think that we should give the 2 children who attended here automatic because they've been very participative.
Well, they can submit their little drawings, and I'm sure we are very grateful for those that have joined. We started this late. It was a rush to get this organized and get going, and we realized that it would be a hard thing on Mother's Day because the mothers just want to lay in bed and be pampered on Mother's Day, and and if it's nice weather, they're all out playing. So it's a difficult day, I think, to have something like this going on. But maybe with Father's Day, we'll have more time to organize and get more people in and have better, or not better, but more interaction. And we're hoping to have another book ready for Father's Day, which will be Keeper of the Forest, which
Yes.
goes for yes. Herbert says yes, which takes the next step. It's kind of a continuation of James the Steward because it does have to do with deforestation and that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll have that book ready by Father's Day. So please, those of you who are on the call, please join us for Father's Day as well. Maybe we'll have it a different day or something.
And Sanjita, how can we get your contact for your child? Because I think we can get for Paloma's from Samantha, right? So that we
Yes, from Samiksha. Yes, ma'am. From Samiksha, ma'am, you can get. She has all the details.
Okay, all right.
And
Paloma's data info.
All right.
okay, I think we've used all of our time, and we do appreciate you all joining us, and we appreciate Samantha and Herbert and Anurag for helping us present this book. And Herbert, we have lots of work to do.
Yes, I would love to take this few minutes remaining. I have Sharon joining us from RESI, and I think it's important she gets to turn on her video and she gets to say hi to us. And another very, very friend close to me called Rose. Maybe they can just say hi to us because their videos are off, we can see them.
Okay. How do we know? How do we not know Rose is on there? Oh, they haven't been on? Oh, hi, Rose. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. I don't see anybody.
They're here.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Is that Rose or Sarah?
Hello.
Hello. Who?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Sharon.
We can hear you. Sure.
It's a good evening for us here and good morning to you all. Thank you for this engagement. I really had fun. My nephews here did have fun. Unfortunately, their concentration is not that high, so they've now gone off. But thank you for everything. We are looking forward to the next Sir James the Stewardess. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have Rose or Sarah?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Well,
Hi.
I've enjoyed the book. I love the story. And I'm new to this. Yeah. And I promise to participate every time there is a course.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you didn't ask any questions.
Yeah, I didn't ask, but I was following and I enjoyed everything.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on and following and enjoying.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
And we have another? Nobody else? Okay. We're all set then. And again, we appreciate your attendance and involvement. And please, children, do your drawing, do your painting, write a little story, something to do with climate change and the environment. And yes, the parents are more than welcome to help. And I guess, who's the girl in Mexico? Sangrita? Paloma.
Sangeeta is
Paloma.
in India.
Paloma, you'll have to get your friend in the Netherlands to join you on Father's Day.
Okay. Yes.
And spread the word. Spread the word. Have him spread the word in Netherlands and get some people from there come in. And have all your friends join you from Mexico.
I'll spread it in
We want
Spanish.
lots and lots of people. Send the link around. Share the link. Share the link with all the friends. Okay. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Father's Day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey,
Go
thank
ahead.
you for, sorry. Thank you for the opportunity. It was great and it was very nice meeting you all.
Okay.
Hello.
Goodbye and happy Mother's Day. Enjoy your days. Enjoy your evenings.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Samantha.